What up fam, E-Fresh here and I'm back with an all new video, and today we are back in the world of Destiny 2. In today's video, we have a new pulse rifle in town, and that new pulse rifle from this act is called Corrasion. In the previous video, you probably heard me say Corrosion, because, yo, let me just say this real quick. Bungie in the name of these weapons is just like, yo, where y'all getting this shit from, fam? Like, what's happening here? But, that being said, we are talking about Corrasion. It is a heavy burst pulse rifle that's arc damage, and it's got some weird perks that I never would have imagined that I would use. And yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised to say I actually like this pulse rifle. It is a heavy burst. I'm not the hugest fan of heavy burst pulse rifles, but with some of the combinations you can pick for this, it's actually pretty dope. So I'm actually good with this pulse rifle. So I'm gonna go over some roles and show you everything that this pulse rifle has, and we'll just talk about some of the roles and options that I was going to choose, and then we'll show you what I ended up choosing as a result. Focusing for this pulse rifle, you're probably wondering how I got these. First off, remember on my previous video with the sidearm, when you come over here to your focusing, you cannot focus these two like as individual just yet. It's going to require the Act 2 engram focusing upgrade, which we won't get till next week. How I got them is, I had a bunch of engrams left from failsafe. I turned some of these in. I got a few red borders. And on top of that, you have to go and do the seasonal activity for Battleground Echoes. And a lot of them dropped there as well. And that's how I was able to get 5. RNG was on my side. I got some red borders and I was able to craft it this way. So let's take a look at the perks that are going to be involved with this new pulse rifle. Alright, so let's go over the perks that this gun can roll with. As you see for the barrels and the magazine, it just kind of depends on however you feel and however your playstyle is. I will say this gun has a pretty slow reload speed, so keep that in mind, which is why I went with arrowhead brake and flared magwell for both of these. Number one, it makes my recoil direction at 100%, and also it just gives me more reload speed and stability, which I think is great for this being a heavy burst pulse rifle. So that's why I went with both of these two. You can't go wrong with accurized rounds if you want to increase the range. If you want more stability, steady rounds is always a good pick as well. It just kind of depends on your play style. But for me personally, that's why I chose arrowhead brake and I chose flared magwell. Now for the third column, what we have is air trigger, perfect float, pugilist, eddy current, enlightened action, perpetual motion, and high impact reserves. My immediate thought first was I was going to use high impact reserves because that's just a fairly decent damage buff, and I thought about it for a while. But with this perk, normally this gun rolls with 18 bullets, so you're not going to see this until the tail end of your magazine, and I just feel like it's just not worth it to be using high impact reserves. You can't really go wrong with perpetual motion. I would say that that's more so better used for PvP. You just basically run around, you get stability, handling, and reload speed while you're in motion. As long as you're staying in motion, that you can keep getting that over and over. That's not bad. For PvP, I would probably use that more so. Enlightened action, dealing damage significantly improves reload speed and handling. Basically, I'm going to have to keep damaging something for that to really take effect. And with a pulse rifle, I mean, I'm going to be sitting there with like a pretty beefy enemy and just keep, constantly damaging him. Then maybe, but even then, I'm probably going to use the heavy for that either way. So I don't think that's really worth it either. That was going to be my second original choice. And I was just like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea either. So enlightened action's not bad, but it's not a choice that I personally would recommend. I think there are better options. Eddy current is another one that I thought about as well, and it's probably second on the list that I would choose. So it temporarily increases reload speed and handling after sprinting or while amplified. So if you're amplified, it increases it even more. The reload speed that you get with this isn't bad. It is actually better, but I will say there is another option that makes this reload speed look crazy, because this other option it's pretty wild. You'll see in a second. Then you have pugilist. You can't go wrong if you want to make a melee build. Pugilist, and I would say, of course, this next column, which we're going to go over next, And Volt Shot, you can't go wrong with a melee build especially if you're a Titan and you just want to go around using Consecration all day. With Pugilist, you can't go wrong with a melee build, especially if you're a Titan and you use Consecration. It just makes sense. So I would say it's not a bad option. I am a Warlock, and I mean, don't get it wrong, for Warlocks and anything else, it can be great too. I just think since Titan is melee based so heavy that it just will work better for a Titan because you can just use Consecration all day. So yeah, just anytime you get a kill with Pugilist, basically you're going to get an 11% energy that's going into your melee each time. So combining that with this next column, Volt Shot, I mean, it's pretty easy to get your melee back using those two. So Pugilist is not a bad pick at all. I would probably say if you're a Titan, I would actually consider making that one of the top picks to use, if not one. So just kind of keep that in mind. Pugilist is actually a good pick. Perfect Float, nah. I'm gonna keep it a G. I'm gonna keep it a G. Nah. There's no reason for me to ever use Perfect Float. I just think it's dumb. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So that's always a no. Now this is where it gets crazy. The one that I ended up going with was Air Trigger. Yep, Air Trigger. Never in a million years did I ever think I would be using this perk, let alone an enhanced version of it. But here we are today, man, and I'm here to just say Air Trigger is a really good option. I think it's the overall best option for PvE. And the reason I'm saying that is because we already know this next column, we're going to go Volt Shot for the most part. I think that's the best option. And the entire point of Volt Shot is for you to get a kill and you reload to activate Volt Shot. You want to reload as fast as you can. Now, as I said earlier, this already has a fairly slow reload speed from the beginning. So that's why I ended up going with Air Trigger. With Air Trigger, you just hop off the ground for like a half a second, reload, and it's basically like half an outlaw. Here's a comparison showing you the differences between a normal reload and between Air Trigger. Crazy, right? Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be using Air Trigger. But let me just say, Air Trigger is nice. Air Trigger is nice. So that's what I ended up going with. Like I said, there's plenty of options you want to choose. That's just one of the ones that I ended up going with. In this fourth column, as you heard me say earlier, for me it's Volt Shot. Like, to me, that's a clear winner. It just makes the most sense. It's Volt Shot, and combine that with these two, it just seems perfect for what I want out of this gun. Now, again, there are other options. Focus Fury, I don't think it's necessary. If you want to use it in PvP, maybe, but other than that, I don't think it's necessary at all. One for All is good for PvE. If you want to kill, you kill 3 separate targets or hit 3 separate targets, and then you get a 35% damage buff, I believe, for One for All. So that's actually, damage-wise, is great. Is it something I want? Is that the playstyle that I want to use? No, I'd rather just use Volt Shot and clear ads. So to me, that makes more sense. But it's an option there for you if you wanted to go with it. Swashbuckler is not bad. Again, it's a damage buff. And of course, if you get a grenade kill that puts it at ×5, and it's a fairly good amount of damage, I think One for All is still better, but Swashbuckler is not bad. Frenzy is the easiest to go with because it's a damage buff that's just fairly constant because you're always in action. So I think it's an additional 15% damage buff. That's always there. So Frenzy is always just a solid option to choose if that's just something you want to just chill with. Now these next two perks, Eye of the Storm, 1000% for PvP, and same for High Ground, 1000% for PvP. Eye of the Storm is going to be perfect for PvP when you're wanting to, just make sure you get that last shot off while you're getting hit and you don't get flinched, and it's just there. It just zooms in and it's just a great hit. So that's a great one to use for accuracy. High Ground, all you need to do is just be like on a small, like a little rock, anything that's above ground for like a second. Great damage buff, not a bad option. You probably seen a lot of people use that with Time Warner's Wayfarer, the scout rifle. I hope I said that right. So yeah, this is also not a bad pick as well for PvP. But the god roll for me personally is Air Trigger and Volt Shot. As you're seeing throughout this gameplay, you're just seeing me just you know, shoot an ad, do a little bunny hop, reload fast as fuck, and then I have volt shot that I can just take out waves of enemies with it, and it just synergizes perfectly. So that's the role I recommend personally. Again, the second option I would say, if you're going to be a Titan, Pugilist and volt shot is a very, very good alternative to that as well. So I would also keep that in mind. But yeah, again, I'm not the hugest fan of heavy burst pulse rifles, but I've enjoyed this pulse rifle. I'm glad I made it. It is the same as the Vex ones for this season, so it does drop the radiolarium as well. So just keep that in mind. It looks great, it performs well, and it is one that I highly recommend you take a look at and get to crafting. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that comment section down below and tell me which role you ended up going with and how much you like this pulse rifle, or if you don't like it at all, just let me know. As an overall, I would say that it is a good pulse rifle. It's a great alternative to use with a volt shot. It's great for ad clearance and it hits hard. So just kind of keep that in mind. It is great to use, especially during this season with it being anti-barrier for pulses. I'm not mad at this pulse rifle. I think it's a solid addition to pick up. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'm going to be putting out another video for a build I have with that sidearm that I think is going to be really fun to use. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, guys, salute to every single one of y'all. I fucks with everybody. And yeah, I'm out.